Andy Wellfare, thank you for coming.
Pleasure to be here, mate. Thank you for having me, buddy. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we are too. Too.
Thank you for coming, Andy.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you.
So Andy, tell us a little bit about your story for where you grew up.
So yeah, I grew up in West Sussex, sunny little village, on a little council estate. I'm the youngest of three. It definitely wasn't a ghetto, but it's we had some neighbours that made things interesting for me when I was growing up. And yeah, I've been there my whole life. And yeah, love it there. It's home.
Lovely. And so what did you start off from earlier on? Like what work-wise, college, university?
I spent pretty much all my youth playing sport. That was all I did. I played football, cricket, rugby, anything I could get into. That was my life. That's all I did. My brother was a big sportsman. My dad, my mum loved sport. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I knew. Every summer holiday, open the door, 6 weeks, return after that. And yeah, that was everything for me.
Yeah, and so did you ever get into anything specific? Was it any specific sport, or was it?
Yeah, so football and cricket were my main two. Football I made up until kind of under 19, under 21 level, but didn't quite make it in that. And cricket as well, I played for the county, played one professional game, but again, didn't quite make it. And then kind of went into normal life and had a job in construction.
Okay.
I worked in insurance for a little while, but it was pretty clear early on that wasn't what I was set out to do. So that's when I got into sport again. It was always my interest, always my passion. So yeah, I found a way to get back into it as a performance coach, and that kind of got me back into what I wanted to do.
That's amazing.
And was there any kind of specific clients at the beginning, or was it just whoever you get your hands on?
No, so I went straight in at the deep end. I was recommended to a company that worked in Formula One, and they also were working with Ian Poulter, the golfer at the time, and a couple of other high-profile clients. And I had an interview with them, and that was my first foray into being a performance coach. Was straight in at the deep end, working with Formula One drivers, golfers. So I never really did the day-to-day normal client stuff. I was straight into it, and that was 12 years ago now, nearly 13, and yeah, haven't looked back now.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say, literally the process. You have to get interviewed by these people to see if you'd even be a good fit for each other. And
yeah, luckily, like I say, I got a recommendation from someone who knew them and knew me, which is always great. And yeah, they took me on and threw me in at the deep end, I guess, which at the time was a little bit scary, but looking back now, it was the best start I could have had, because sink or swim, and luckily I swam, and yeah, I'm still doing it now.
Nice.
So like when you say like performance coach, is it like physical? Is it psychological? Like what does it entail?
So performance coach, basically my job, how I see it, is to take someone, an athlete, and make them perform better, perform to their maximum. So that is the physical side of it, the mental side of it, helping them with nutrition, being a mentor to them, being available all the time to just anything they need, is to be there for them and try and do my best to make sure that they perform better as well as they can. That's my main aim.
Because when you're like high level performance, like any little everything helps, isn't it? Like any little bit of psychology.
Yeah. Everyone says the 1%ers, and that's so true. Is those little advantages that you can get, because it's not just about talent. It's not just about it's about working hard, having good habits, having someone you can talk to, knowing how to deal with good scenarios, bad scenarios, learning from experiences, and being able to talk to someone like myself and reinforce that so that it becomes a second nature.
Because I'm sure like there's many times where they feel a bit down, or performance might be lacking, but when you're there, you give them the
absolutely
they get up and go.
Yeah, because in high level sport, there's a lot of bad times, probably more bad times than good, and if you can't deal with those and look at them and go, right, okay, I'm going to learn from that, move on to the next one, because it is going to happen again. You're going to find yourself in a really hard place, because that can really take over, because it is, when you get to that level, it is your life, it's your day-to-day, and if you can't deal with the little bad things that come about, it's going to be a real struggle, because at the end of the day, you have to enjoy it.
That's why kind of winning along this journey all the time is not kind of a place for everyone to start growing in. You want to success is always built on failures.
Yeah, you either win or you learn, right? That's the saying that everyone says, and it's so true. You learn way more when stuff's tough than when you're winning all the time.
True, man.
And that's something you have to try and reinforce to them, is that, okay, you lost, you didn't have a good day, But
we go in again.
When you come back, you're going to be stronger than you were before that.
Got to keep rolling with the punches.
Yeah, for sure.
You've got to be a good loser, I'd say.
That's key.
You've got to be a good loser.
Yeah,
because
sure.
otherwise, if you're a bad loser, how are you going to pick yourself back up again and keep going and maintain that level of high performance? Because at the top it's 1%. Like it makes all the difference. If you have a bad day it's normal, I guess, to have a bad day. But
it is, and it is brutal. Performing at a high level is hard. It's day to day. It takes a strain on you, and I think sometimes people forget that they have to enjoy it, and that sounds like a really cheesy cliche, but if you enjoy something, you do it better.
Okay.
And if you take it too seriously, you let the bad times get onto you too much, it becomes really hard to perform. You just put too much pressure on all the time. You just have to accept that sometimes, you have a bad day.
Yeah. Swings and roundabouts.
And have you ever had clients where this has ended up being that this sport isn't for them altogether, or most of the time have they always persevered through that?
Most of the time they have. Working in motorsport, a lot of the time it's a financial implication that maybe is the reason why they don't continue. But I've had clients who, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to motorsport, both financially and performance-wise, because there's so few of them. There's so many people waiting in the wings to take your spot. And it can become too much for some, they don't get the results they want and they go, do you know what, this isn't something that I can maintain. The stress and the financial strain is just too much for me to be able to continue this. But
what sort of financial strain are we talking about?
So Formula 2, so the step below Formula 1, you're talking about 2 million just to have the race seat.
Investment.
It's a big investment, and then you've got the flights, hotels, damage on top of that. But bearing in mind, you would have done go-karting, Formula 4, Formula 3, leading up to that, which again, you're talking millions. It's a huge investment, and if you're not performing and you know that your parents or sponsors are putting that much money into it, that's pressure. That's an extra strain on top. That is probably unique to a sport. In football, rugby, cricket, okay, there's time and investment from the family, but not a huge monetary investment. So I think that on top makes it quite a unique sport.
It's like massive. Because you were saying earlier before we come on, which was quite interesting actually. I didn't realise how much money went into becoming like a Formula 1 driver from a, say, like a kid.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's probably not unrealistic to consider that maybe £15 million could be spent.
15
10
million,
to 15,
imagine. 10 to 15 mil.
To try and get into Formula 1. And the thing is, again, with motorsport in general, is there's a car involved as well, which that can detract if you have a bad car or the engineers get something wrong or it's just not set up right. No matter how talented you are or how well you're performing, if the car isn't right, you're not going to get the results. And trying to figure out and factor in, is it the driver, is it the car, is it both? It again, that makes it a very unique sport, and a hard one to manipulate mentally, I think.
Yeah, I bet, because now you're not just relying on yourself. There's other things in the picture.
If I take a penalty and I sky it over the bar, that's my fault.
It's your fault.
If I take a corner and the car understeers, is that my fault or is that the car's not set up? And there's always this kind of grey area, I guess, which makes it a little bit harder.
Lots of moving bits.
Absolutely,
Lots of moving pieces, And I suppose that your job is to make sure that driver is at his best potential.
My job is to go, when you get out of the car, can you look me in the eye and say you did everything you could to the best of your ability? And if they can say yes, you can go, okay, well, that's our job done. The rest is up to someone else. If you can get out of the car and you moan about the car and you're saying, I didn't perform properly, well, then we've got a problem.
There's an issue.
And how do you deal with, do the drivers ever beat themselves up more than they should? Is there a...
Regularly.
Regularly.
And I always say, look, when you get out of the car, you have 2 minutes. You can go beat yourself up, and then that's it. It's done. You have to allow them to go. They have to look at what they've done. If they haven't performed, then you have to look back and reflect and go, okay, well, I made mistakes. But you have to do that. But there's a time frame on that. You can't keep doing that. Learn your lesson, move on, don't do it again.
And I imagine they're quite disciplined individuals that your clients that you deal with.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the motorsport, it's a very structured sport. Everything is down to the letter. Every part is accounted for, and it's the same with their routine. They're very structured and disciplined, and they work incredibly hard. I think a lot of people don't realise how fit these guys have to be and how hard they have to work to do what they do.
Just down the top.
I hear regularly, all they're doing is driving a car. Well, I'd love for the people that say that to come and have a go and see just how tough it is.
I remember listening to Lewis Hamilton about how he has to be a specific weight. Yeah. Otherwise, it throws everything off.
Yeah, it's really tough. So one of the hardest parts for me was the engineer would say, right, we need this guy to weigh 68 kilos in kit, for example. Now, he might be 6'1", he might be 5'5", but you still get that same weight level. I mean, I worked with a guy who was 6'2", and he had to weigh 70 kilos in kit. Now, bearing in mind, kit weighs about 4 kilos, so you're talking 66 kilos for a guy that's over 6 foot. That's
slim.
So how do you get around that?
You have to cut a lot of food out. You have to burn a load of calories. You have to really, and there is always an element of risk with that. You are pushing someone to a real, and especially in a sport like motorsport where you need them to be strong and
mind sharp,
energy high. So ideally, the smaller the driver, the better. But that's not always the way that it works out.
Because I know a pro boxer that's just recently fought in Dubai last night, actually, and he was cutting weight before the fight, and you could see he looked tired, he looked drained, and so the mental and physical kind of burden it has before a race is. Yeah,
it's super tough. I mean, especially if you're racing somewhere like Malaysia or Singapore where the temperatures are through the roof and you're losing kilos while you're racing as well. I
could imagine you could burn quite a lot of calories even through racing as well.
Kilos can be lost during a race, especially somewhere like
kilos.
Malaysia. I don't know if you've ever been to Malaysia or Singapore or somewhere, but the humidity is, and then you put them in a car where there's an engine in front of them or behind them, hot tarmac for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's going to
get
hot.
Brutal. Yeah, it's brutal.
I mean, go-karting in Cyprus is bad enough, isn't it?
Go-karting's hard work.
It's hard work go-karting, mate. You get bumps and bruises, you're aching a bit. So it's like,
this on a whole nother level, to be fair. So why specific? Was there something you were drawn with F1? The race car driving?
No, I'll be honest. I've always been into racing. It's something that I've always watched, and I've always been into cars. But it wasn't an intentional move to get into motorsport. Yeah. It just happened that way. As I say, that I was recommended to a company that happened to deal with or work in motorsport. And that's how my sort of journey started. It wasn't something that I set out to do a specific sport,
never had a passion.
But that's how it worked out for me, and I've loved it. It's been really good to me. I've got to grown to love the sport even more, appreciate it even more for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
Got to go to some beautiful places as well.
Oh, I've travelled the world so much more than I ever dreamt I would, and I've been really fortunate for that. Very lucky.
So is it specifically drivers that you deal with, or is there
predominantly? I have worked in golf, cricket, boxing, even a couple of Grand National jockeys in the past, but predominantly motorsport, because it's just such a great sport to be into. It's such a great environment, and they always say it's one of the hardest sports to get into and one of the hardest to get out of, and that's true.
Right.
Once you love it so much.
Once you get involved, it's a whole new world. It's the adrenaline, the excitement, and probably the danger a little bit as well. It is quite addictive.
Thrilling.
It is, and I don't think there's many sports, if any, that tickle as many boxes as Formula One does, or motorsport in general.
Amazing.
And you don't see yourself stopping anytime soon, then?
I'm going to try not to. I'm getting a little bit older now, and I've got 2 young kids and stuff. So at some stage, I'm going to have to ease off a little bit. But I've started doing some different work now, stepping into some different sort of areas which I've really enjoyed away from motorsport. I did some work with Billy Monger on a challenge recently, which was really good. Working with a few local people as well. So I've started to offer some free sessions for guys in the evenings now for mental health reasons, to come and just be either come and train or just be a part of something. So that's something that I'm interested in. So slowly starting to sort of bring it down on the motorsport front, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to completely step away from it anytime soon, if I'm honest.
Well, if you've got a passion for it, then hopefully you don't have to stop it, to be fair.
Fingers crossed.
So you mentioned Billy Monger. Who's Billy Monger for anyone that doesn't know?
So Billy Monger is just one of the greatest people on the planet, first and foremost. He is a young lad who had a big crash and unfortunately lost both of his legs due to that incident. And he's just an incredibly inspirational guy, and I was fortunate enough to work on a project with him for Comic Relief several years ago as their main event on their Red Nose Day, and it's something that I enjoyed and was incredibly powerful and emotional, and just an incredible experience, and that inspired me to now start to want to try and do more challenge-based things, more work with individuals trying to achieve something, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, and then you've been you're still working with Billy even to this day.
Yeah, still work with him now. So I started working with him just after he had his crash. I reached out to the family just after it happened, and again, I say that motorsport is a really close environment. Everyone looks out for everyone, and as soon as it happened, I sent an email to the family and said, that I'll happily for free try and help Bill get back in the car. And then I had a call from his team boss and said, look, he is back in the car, but he's struggling. Can you have start working with him? And that was, what was that? That'll be about 6 years ago now.
6 years.
Or 5 years ago. And we still work together now. We're really close. He's like a little brother to me, and he inspires me every day. He's just turned 24, but he's mega. So
this crash, it obviously, must have been terrible if he lost his legs. Nemo, do you reckon we can? I just want to see kind of the extent of.
So he's back now. You said it's been 6 years. So
he's 6 years. Yeah, he got back into racing. Unfortunately, he doesn't race at the moment due to financial implications.
Right.
But he commentates for Channel 4 for the Formula One. And you've got the crash up here. As you can see, he's following a group of cars there. He ended up at the back of the pack a little bit, and then the two cars in front of him moved to the side, and just the next thing you see is a static car that he hits clean on, and that unfortunately led to him losing or being amputated on both sides.
Oh man!
So that's kind of like the kind of depths of how risky this sport is.
Yeah, it is. It's a sad part of it, but it's something that every driver goes into the sport and into the car knowing is possible, and they know that could happen.
So Billy came out of that, and what was he like?
Typical Bill, really. He came out of that, and the first thing he wanted to do was get back in a car.
Wow.
So at the time, the rules were a disabled person couldn't race in a race. So he fought the system, the FIA, to get them to change their rules.
Oh, wow.
And won.
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
And bearing in mind the age he was at and the size of the organisation he was trying to convince, it's quite incredible.
Massive.
And then, he got back into racing. He had hand controls on rather than pedals, and was instantly ridiculously quick.
Man, that's a testament. I think that's a testament to you as well, though, to getting back and be there for him, to get him back on track.
I think anyone who meets Bill
would want to do the same.
It's not, you can't help but want to help someone like Bill. And I'd had a little boy just before the crash happened, and the instant thing is, okay, if something like that happened to my son, what would you want someone to do?
Absolutely.
Being that change that you want to see in the world.
And I think, he's just inspirational, like I say, and I wanted to help him and try and get him back onto his journey because he deserves it.
Bless him.
Yeah.
So he's racing again.
So he did race. Unfortunately, he's not currently, and again because of just the money that's involved, it wasn't possible.
Is there no opportunity outside of what he was doing before to still race?
There's some potential opportunities for sure, and I don't think it will ever be ruled out. It's in his DNA, it's in his blood to race. So I think any opportunity he could get to get back in the car, he'd bite your hand off for sure, without any hesitation. But he's got some amazing stuff going on. He's like I say, he's commentating in Channel 4 on the F1, and he's got some amazing projects going on. And
fair play to him.
Big up Billy Monger.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Billy Monger, mate.
So and you still work closely aside him, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we train regularly. We're always looking at different projects to do together. we always push each other hard. We contact each other every day. We're close.
That's fantastic.
I don't think that'll ever change.
What? So what's his current project, or what's the previous project that you've
So the previous, the current one is something we can't talk about right now. Okay. The previous one was we worked on, like I say, I think I mentioned before, for Comic Relief. He did the main event for their Red Nose Day during COVID. Massive. Actually. Oh, cool. So he did a 4-day triathlon. So it was basically a marathon, 100 miles on the bike, and an 18-mile kayak.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And it kind of came about in a strange way because it was during lockdown, and I think both of us at the time were kind of a little bit lost as to what we were supposed to be doing. And Bill contacted me and said, "Mate, I've been in my chair too much. I've been off my legs. I've just had to walk into town a kilometre with my mates and I'm absolutely screwed, so I need to get back in the gym." So he came back in the gym and we started talking, and we said to ourselves, well, why don't we do a little triathlon, because it's COVID, you're allowed to be outside, let's get out on the bike, let's get out walking. So we started thinking about that, and we said, we'll do it for charity. And then the next thing we know, Bill comes in and says, Comic Relief have been in touch, they'd like us to do a triathlon. Whoa. It's like, well, this is, there was absolute coincidence. There was no communication between the two. It just happened that way. So he came in and said, I've been asked to do the triathlon. He gave me the numbers in terms of the distances, and he said, what do you think? And regardless of what I said, he was doing it. Yeah. And I think he knew that regardless of what he said, we were doing it.
Together,
So we kind of looked at each other and went, yeah, let's do this.
Wow, that's powerful.
So we had 6 weeks to prepare for it properly. And I'm bearing in mind that, like I say, Bill had walked a kilometre and was pretty tired after that. He hadn't ridden a bike since his accident, and he'd never kayaked before, so we had a bit of a challenge on our hands. But to be asked to do something for Comic Relief, especially as their main challenge, is such an honour that it's not an option to even consider.
Declining.
Yes, we're just saying yes, and whatever.
Work it out.
Whatever we need to do, we'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
So we trained hard for 6 weeks, and he did it. It was the most emotional, powerful, inspiring experience I think I'll ever have. It was just phenomenal. Wow, and the support he got and the money that he raised kind of empowered that, because I think everyone got behind him, especially during COVID where the chips were down. To see someone like Bill, I think it just brought a little bit of hope and a little bit of happiness to everyone that watched it.
It's powerful, man.
Should we have a look at this this clip of him after?
Yeah, come on, Nemo, let's have a look.
My name is Billy Monger. Some of you may know me as a racing driver. My challenge is an Ironman distance, 140 miles, 18 miles on the kayak, marathon, and the rest of that 140 miles is made up on the bike.
This is what
and it's for an amazing cause, and that's obviously going to play a huge part in it. It's, from a selfish point of view, it is just the challenge element and that competition within myself, seeing what I'm capable of, and help a lot of people and raise a hell of a lot of money. That, for me, it was like the full package of what I was after in life and what I was missing from 2020. So it was like, I had to do it.
Wow.
Racing for me, as a young boy when I was younger.
Legend.
I mean, I don't know if you saw in the footage there as well. So our training was done over December, January, February and March. So, we were going out cycling at -2 degrees with the snow. So it was a real baptism of fire for him, like I say, having not cycled and then going out in the snow, he was thinking, bloody hell, what's going on here? But it's, with Bill, it's not, can I do it? It's how well can I do it? And I think I said that to you before, is he looks at everything and goes, I can do that, and I'm going to do it well. How well can I do this? How hard can I work to get the best result out of this possible?
It's got that kind of razor sharp focus, and on the end goal, it's just about how he ultimately gets to it.
Yeah, he's just got a real ingrown determination.
So how do you, so when you're supporting Bill, are you, what I want to try to allude to is that you're everything you do, you influence him more times in a positive way. But do you ever how do you keep yourself in check and make sure that you're influencing him in the right way? And
with difficulty sometimes, but we have to be realistic and honest with him sometimes and go, okay, this is achievable, but we just have to take a little bit of time, take stock and go, okay, well, this is something that we need to do slowly, because sometimes slowly gets you there quicker than trying to rush it in the first place.
Sustainable.
Having a problem taking a step back, keep repeating that process. And some of the stuff we have to do to prepare for things is very boring, mundane, sort of a lot of conditioning work, a lot of injury prevention work. And I can see sometimes, that can be frustrating for him and for me, but it's part of a process that we have to go through. And sometimes we just have to remember this is a process, this is part of it. And, we will get there, but we just have to do it a little bit slowly to start with.
Yeah. Because I found in life that the more slowly you do something, the more sustainable it is. Normally 9 times out of 10 when you rush something, there's a lot of pain to kind of go through in that process, and sometimes it could be a make or break situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Where if you keep it at a consistent pace,
it's like anything. If you get the foundations right, you can build upon that. If you rush the first bit, you're always playing catch up, and you're always risking, an injury or getting something wrong further down the line. If you get the basics right, the fundamentals right, and you can build on them, then you can definitely get to where you want to go.
So how do you keep yourself in check while looking after this young man? You've got to be in a really good headspace. So while you're looking after him, how are you looking after yourself at that time?
I think, as I said, I look at Bill as like a little brother to me. I look at him and you feel responsible, or I feel responsible, and I want him to do well so much that I'm able to kind of put my ego aside, my excitement aside, I guess, at sometimes, and go, okay, well, what is best for Bill in the long run, and I'm able to kind of keep it in check for that. And I'm sure sometimes I do get carried away and want something that is is going to be very tough, but I also think that's best for him sometimes. He loves that. He wants a challenge, and
that's being pushed.
I think the two of us, we work well together. I think the period of time we've had together and what we've been through has brought us really close, and I think we've got a good understanding now, and I think we're both pretty good and pretty at being honest with each other and saying, "Whoa, hang on, just think about this."
It's important. It's important. If you can't be honest, and you can't make adjustments, isn't it? Because you've got to face it head on.
I think that's one of the things that makes a performance coach different, is you're not working with multiple, 10, 15, 20 different athletes. You're working with 2 or 3 maybe at a time. So you're able to get to know each one on a personal level and know what makes them tick, what makes them work, what sort of person are they, what's their background. And if you can do that, that's when you can get the best out of them. I think if you go with too many people...
Yeah, you spread too thin.
Yeah, and you kind of... Absolutely.
It's that personal kind of relationship.
And that for me is the most important thing, is knowing that person, knowing them well, and letting them know me well too, so that we've got the trust to talk to each other about good stuff, bad stuff, and be able to kind of have a conversation about it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
It's quite interesting because we all go through different versions of adversity in our lives. Yeah. But when you see what happened to a young man at his age, lose his legs, sometimes these things can really help put it into perspective for our own versions, even though they're all relative, our problems to ourselves. When to lose your legs at a very young age, can be such a trauma to get through.
It's massive.
And then luckily enough, he had good people around him to help support him through, and continues to support him through that journey.
Yeah, and he's got an amazing family too. His mum, dad and sister are just phenomenal, and they're a very tight family, and that helps a lot. They do anything for him, and he has got good people around him, and he's got a great attitude. And I don't think losing his legs isn't something that defines him. It's definitely a part of his journey, but the determination and the ambition that Bill's got was already there as well. And I think it's important to realise that's Bill pre car crash and post, is that that's him. He's a determined guy, and he's a great guy, and he's
changing the world. So he raised a lot for charity.
He did, I think it was about 2.5, and I think that actually went up a little bit after.
Amazing,
to closer to 3, which again during a time like COVID is quite phenomenal. For a young lad on his own during a pandemic to raise that kind of money,
it's unheard of.
And for him, that was such great reward. I think it was always for him was, okay, how much can we do for someone else now? Because he had a GoFundMe page after his crash, and a lot of people helped him, and I think it was important to him to go, okay, I can give some of that back now. I can repay that favour. And neither of us ever dreamed that it would make that much money, and I think we were both incredibly
overwhelmed.
touched and overwhelmed when the numbers came in.
Phenomenal, man. It was 3 mil.
Yeah, it's great, and I know that it did a lot of good.
There's a lot to be said about taking responsibility on in your life, and how that can be quite liberating. And I think for Bill, he's taken on this responsibility of trying to inspire other people and help other people, and that in itself can be quite serving towards you. Definitely. As opposed to when you try and make life too much about yourself, it can actually get quite negative quite quickly.
Absolutely. I think the more you can put into other people, the more you personally get out of it. And that's something that I've definitely learned since that, is if you can be there for other people, put yourself out to help other people, the reward you get is, and the more you get in return from those people too. I think if you're too self-focused, it can become very lonely. And to be able to do something like that for Bill, for myself, but also for the people that we're going to, get something from the money that was raised. Yeah, is the ultimate dream. Yeah, it was an honour.
That's brilliant. And what about yourself, Andy? What's some of the hardships that you've had to go through recently, or?
I think like a lot of people during COVID, found stuff very hard. Once I'd finished the challenge with Bill, it definitely left a bit of an emptiness, I guess, as terms of how to go about things. I knew that I wasn't able to travel to the races like I was. My gym was shut, so I couldn't open that. I just had a little girl who was very poorly during COVID. She was in intensive care. So there's a lot to deal with at that time, and I definitely have had over the last sort of 18 months the toughest time I've ever had on this planet. And at the sort of now I look at it and go, okay, it's been really tough, but it's probably the period of my life that I've grown the most and I've learnt the most. And trying to sort of use that now to put more time into other people and offer free gym sessions to the local community for guys that are struggling with things, and help them be a part of a community, let them know that they're not alone, let them know that there's a gym available to them, because at the end of the day, exercise is more effective than counselling, it's more effective than pills in terms of beating depression and things like that. So it's inspired me to do that, and it's very rewarding. So it's been a part of my life that's been tough since then, and I think it's amazed me at how many guys have actually been feeling the same and haven't said anything about it. And I think, as we said earlier, you do end up feeling very lonely, but when you start putting yourself out there, talking about it, listening to other people, you start to feel a part of something again.
Yeah, because our typical kind of way of dealing with things is just to suppress them.
Yep.
And generally they end up coming out in different ways. Whether it's
being a man, right?
Anger, frustration,
normal, isn't it? It's normal to just be
and it's not healthy. It's not sustainable.
Not to you or the people around you either, because
and you have to put your own oxygen mask on first, then you can help other people. And
so true.
I was always, and I think part of with the job that I had would be to be the strong one, be the one that smiles in the morning to make sure that the driver feels good or whoever I'm working with feels good. And sometimes you forget that actually I feel a bit shit today. So it sort of came out a little bit, and I think the routine gets broken, doesn't it, with something like COVID? You're on a treadmill,
massively,
you're doing the same thing every day, and then suddenly it stops, and that's when you suddenly get time to go, okay, I've got some stuff I need to deal with. And it's been a tough period, but that's kind of what's led me to where I am now, where I'm sitting here now, and the potential stuff that I've got on the horizon in terms of new projects, which are really exciting. And without this tough period, I wouldn't have a lot of that in front of me, and that so I have to take the positives. And this chapter is still ongoing a little bit, but I know that when it comes to the end and the new one starts, I'm going to be in a much better place because of it, for sure.
Yeah. So some of your clientele you deal with, so we've got the race car drivers, and I know you gave us a bit of a synopsis before. You spoke about that you train some royalties as well, do you?
That's correct, yeah. So that came about. I look after the Princes of Johor. They got in touch with me because they wanted to get into racing. Their family have a long line of racing. So they contacted me. I've done a lot of work with Malaysian drivers over the years. I worked with Caterham, who was run by Tony Fernandez, who is Malaysian. And since then, I kind of ended up working predominantly with Malaysian drivers, which is great. So they contacted me 4 years ago and said, right, we want to get into a car. Can you come and help me get ready for it?
Wow.
So obviously I said, yes, please.
Yeah.
And they are two amazingly kind, hard-working two guys that are doing really well. I mean, actually, this weekend, the youngest Prince got pole and won for the first time.
Well
so
done
they're
to
doing Asian GT, which is a really competitive championship. There's a lot of really high-level drivers in that. And Aman, the older brother, is doing a great job. He's a Red Bull athlete now. So yeah, in the last sort of 3 or 4 years since they started, they've both just done incredibly well. But they work so hard.
Yeah.
They're so dedicated, so passionate about it, and just incredibly genuine as well. And it's been brilliant.
Nice. But what, did they do any racing before they got in touch with you? Or?
No, they
so
haven't
they just
raced.
thought, I want to just race.
Yeah, so they'd obviously done a bit of go-karting and stuff. And
Okay,
had always been into it. Like I said, there's a long history of racing in the family.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, they both sort of got to the point where they're like, yeah, we're going to give
Let's
this a
do
go.
And you're the man. That's cool though, bro. That's
Yeah,
massive,
so,
man.
you know, it's been great. And again, I think that's one of the most rewarding things. It's always having a guy that's already established and is really talented and is in a really good place is obviously great because you can see them do well. But to pick someone up who's just starting and go through the journey with them
Yeah, man.
makes the whole thing taste that little bit sweeter.
Yeah,
You're going to have a lot more down points, obviously, at the start. But when those good points start to come, they're amazing. You know, you can see it in their eyes. You can see that growth, that journey. And
From the seedling.
I could imagine like a real fundamental part of all of this is having the right attitude and mindset to kind of carry you along that journey, because you can have all this ability and all this talent, but if you don't use it in the right way or have the right mindset, and it sounds like people like Billy and the royalty family that you work with, they sound like they're very much got the right mindset to achieve these
and
things.
for me, you have to, what's your definition of success? Is that being the champion, or is that being the best that you can be? And even at the highest level, whatever result you get, if you can look yourself in the mirror and the people around you and go, I've worked so hard for this, I've done everything I could have done, and this is the best I can do, that for me is success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not being lazy and just happening to win stuff. There's no reward in that.
No.
It's the process, it's the hard work, it's the determination, it's the sacrifice, it's the honesty, it's all of that gives me the buzz. I'm probably quite tough on the guys that I work with, and I think they'll definitely tell you that I am, is I make them work hard. I demand that they push, and when they're in front of me, because I mean, in the gym you get exposed pretty quickly. I can tell within 2 minutes if you're going to be a hard worker, if you're dedicated, if you're going to cut corners. And I've had in the past some guys come in and within 10 minutes go, do you know what, this isn't going to work, mate.
And that's fine.
You can go somewhere else, and that's cool. I think you're a great guy, but this process isn't going to work.
Fair enough.
And I'm happy to do that, because I think if anyone's going to get the best out of me and I'm going to get the best out of them, we both have to be on the same page.
On that level,
we're doing this properly. We're going to go and get this. And whatever that end result is, as long as you get to where the maximum you can get to,
then you're successful.
Everyone's happy.
Yeah.
You know, if that's 10th, if that's second, or if that's champ, great.
Yeah, because you gave it your all, isn't it?
And that's key. And I think I always say you've got to look back on your career, put yourself 30, 40 years ahead of where you are now. You're sitting down. Can you look back and go, I gave everything to that. I've got no regrets whatsoever.
I just gone through life, and I've just lived and breathed by it's you versus you.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, it's never about being in competition with other people. Yeah. You're always trying to be it's about you trying to be the best version of yourself every step of the way, better than who you was yesterday.
Yeah. And I think that's getting harder and harder for people though these days, especially when they're in sport and they're in the limelight, is to lose the outside influences and just go, okay, it's me against me, like you say. Yeah. And that is key, because that's the only thing that matters.
It is.
You can look back and go, I did that properly.
It's true.
There's no problems there.
Because if it's me and you up against each other, say, and you're focusing on you and I'm looking at other people, all the time I'm spending doing that, you're growing, isn't it? And I'm like
exactly,
losing energy and like focus.
That is exactly the mindset.
But you know, it's not everyone's like that. You know, people like to watch other people, and it's social media,
especially when you get higher up the chain. Is you have to be real tunnel visioned. You know, when you're in the gym, nothing else matters. You're just in the gym for that 2 hour period, 3 hour, whatever it may be. Phone goes off. There's no phones. There's no taking your shirt off and taking selfies. That's a no-no. You're in the gym and you're going to work and you're going to pull funny faces and you're going to sweat and you're going to look rough. It doesn't matter, because when you come out of there, you're going to look yourself and go, yeah.
But it's amazing how you feel after you've had a killer training session mentally.
The best,
it is there's nothing else I feel that can beat it for me.
No, and you know, for a lot, obviously you get the chemical releases and stuff, but I think it's just the pride of going, I pushed today. I did what I needed to do to get from A to B today. Well. Yeah, it's mega.
Yeah,
it's great. I don't think there's many things that kind of
top that.
No.
And so when you're working with the royalties, is it like a team of people or is it just solely yourself?
So in terms of the training, it's just myself.
Okay.
So obviously they live in Johor in Malaysia, so contact time with them is quite limited. I go and see them regularly for checkups and do training camps, and I go to the races with them. But a lot of it is done remotely, so I'll send them a program. We'll sit down and we'll talk about it, and then they'll go ahead and do it on their own. Obviously, with the time difference as well, it's quite hard to. But their discipline, focus, and dedication, I have no problem in going, right, this is what we're doing, and they will literally go, okay, and I know that it's going to get done. And they regularly send video. I mean, they work harder than anyone. You know, but they've had a military background, and you can see that in them is that, they're very focused and
disciplined. Yeah,
and they want to. I think for them, it's a nice escape from being a prince as well. I think it's a nice chance to go, okay, I'm going to work for something here. This isn't something that I'm going to get given.
Yeah.
On the racetrack, no one cares who I am. You know, if they're coming into a corner side by side, the other driver's going to ram you off the road whether you're a prince or not. So you have to be prepared for that. You have to be physically.
Privilege.
No, absolutely. And I think that, and they love that. I think it's a nice opportunity to be them. You know, I say to them, you put your helmet on, and you're going to be aligned. You're just going to forget everything else. You're just going to put your helmet on, and then you're a racing driver for that period of time. Forget everything else. And I like that.
So you got all these responsibilities. You look after Billy. You look after royalties. You fly out here and there. You've got children as well.
Yeah.
You know, how do you manage all of your time? And because I know when we off the podcast, you went through quite a difficult period in COVID, and you was actually with someone before, weren't you?
Yes.
So you've do you manage to? How well do you manage your time with all of these people? And
I think I do a good job. I mean, I have to be very structured, and I have to be disciplined in myself, and I have to, sort of be prepared to stay up late at night, and once the kids have gone to bed, and then start my work on setting programs and talking to the guys overseas and working, things like that. But for me, I love it. There's no hardship in that for me whatsoever. My kids are obviously my priority, always will be. They're everything to me. But people like Bill and the Princes, like I said to you, they're like little brothers to me as well, and I get as much pleasure out of helping them and being a part of that team as I do, my own kids. So it can be difficult, and sometimes you get back from a flight from Japan at 6 a.m, you're jet lagged and you've got to go and pick your kids up. It is tough, but you see their faces and they go, yeah, Dad's back, and you go, that's fine, I can deal with this, that's all good. But I manage my time, my workload a lot better now than I used to. When my son was born 6 years ago, the first year he was born, I was away something like 40 weekends in the year.
40.
But again, a part of that was like, okay, we've got a family, we need a bigger house, and it was a bit of that. But also, that was just what I did, and it's taken me a little bit of time to go, okay, you need to take your foot off the gas a little bit. And actually, I think COVID helped with that. As tough as I found it, I actually think I needed to break the routine that I had, because it was becoming a little bit too much.
Yeah, because you love it so much, isn't it? You're just head over
it's
heels,
what I knew, and
kind of thing.
After I stopped playing sport, I needed a way to get back into it, because being a part of a team and having that competitive environment around you, and I needed that, and I still do. But I also, kind of have to realise that I can still get that. I can still have my own time, which is important. And time with the family, and they're all equally as precious, and I think as I get older, I'm starting to get a little bit better at it.
Yeah, it's managing it all, isn't it?
definitely.
Yeah, managing your time. I actually struggle with it. There's just so much to do all the time.
Yeah.
And am I doing the right thing? Is this really a priority? So it's always, you always got to keep having that, like, reanalyzing thing, making sure you're being efficient with your time, but recharging your batteries.
You've got to rest as hard as you train, is a saying that we always have. You've got to recover as hard as you train, because if you keep going, the output comes down. You've got to recharge, and then the output becomes that much better. Your focus becomes much better, and the quality of what you put out becomes much better.
Sleep's a big part of that.
Sleep is huge.
Massive.
Sleep is huge for everyone. Sleep is huge, and I think it's one thing that people are getting worse at with phones, laptops, iPads. You go to bed and then you start doing something else.
It's blue light and all this.
Yeah, sleep. It's key.
Yeah, because I quite enjoy training, but I notice such a big difference in myself. If I've had like 5-6 hours sleep, when I train the next day, I feel a bit like can't be bothered. But when I've had a full like 8-9 hours, the next day I'm like
fresh as a daisy.
Sometimes
fully charged.
Sometimes you wake up and you go, I'm not feeling the gym today, and sometimes it's okay to go, okay, I'm going to have a day off, and then tomorrow I know I'm going to work way better. You've got to manage workloads and not just physically but mentally as well, because there's so many different things going on. Sometimes your brain or your headspace just isn't there, and you have to just go, okay, look, maybe I need to just step back today,
have that downtime,
and go again tomorrow. And I think that's part of day-to-day management that everyone needs to kind of to work on,
introduce into their lives. It's quite funny, because sometimes I'll train really hard and afterwards I feel buzzing and full of energy. And then sometimes there's a bit of a come down after that as well, and it's like you've got to just kind of flow through life, let yourself kind of dip a little bit, so then you can pull yourself back up, and that's kind of how you got to let it roll.
Trust your body, trust your judgment. You know yourself pretty well. You know when you can push and when you don't. Just listen to what your body's telling you. I mean, some days you do feel rubbish, but sometimes there are the days where you need to go and grind it out in the gym just for your own kind of mental gratification. So it's a fine balance, but exercising is vital. And I think, since I started these sessions for the guys in the local area, so many of them have got young kids, and they've all said, since I had children, I haven't trained. It's been 6 years, 10 years,
typical trap years to fall into,
isn't it? And then they come in and you see instantly they're messaging me like, right, can you send me a program? When are we doing it next week? Can we add an extra day? They get so into it because they feel so much better. They start sleeping better because they're burning some energy. They lose a little bit of weight so they feel better about how they look. And suddenly this ball gets rolling, and that all just starts from just going down the gym. Don't even have to work that hard. Just being in an environment where you're doing something positive around other people that are trying to do something positive, it really gets the ball rolling.
It's really important.
It's quite interesting though how you can't really pour from an empty cup. And you got people like in your shoes, or these dads where they're always looking after everybody else all the time, and they forget about themselves, and then you start deteriorating yourself.
Very much so.
And you need to be the best version of yourself for these people, whether it's your kids or people like Billy or the Princes. You got to try and be in the best possible headspace so they can have access to the best version.
For sure. And I've been guilty of forgetting about the relationship I have with myself, worrying so much about what I'm saying to other people and where they're at, that it's very easy to then forget about yourself. Are you doing the right things for you? Are you making sure that you're in the best space to be passing on this information?
It was just so much easier. It's so much easier just to focus on everyone else and make sure everyone else is okay. And not a lot of people actually take that time or that headspace to say, well, what's going on in my world?
Definitely.
How can I readjust this? How can I make this better for me and the people around me? We just generally, and it's definitely a cultural thing for us in our family, where it's like you're always accommodating everyone else and looking after everyone else, but then all the while, who's looking after you? And I think one of the issues that I faced growing up was actually it was all about everybody else. It wasn't necessarily about yourself. Which obviously you get all the good side to it, where you're making people feel good, but then all the while your cup's empty and then everyone else is fuller.
I think it's a common misconception that if you start looking after yourself, you become selfish, and that's not the case. You have to make sure that you're in a good place to be able to pass on good stuff. And it's amazed me at how many guys I've talked to, for all different walks of life, ages, wealth levels, family status, are struggling, and once they start opening up, it's often the same thing, is that they just haven't contemplated how they feel, their own mental health, how hard are they working, how much sleep are they getting, are they exercising? It just seems to just go under the radar, and then suddenly something snaps, and then they go, oh,
yeah,
I've left that too late. And I think it's so important now that, and I think it is getting better, that guys in particular are able to now call their mates and go, mate, can you come round? I'm having a bit of a tough time here. And I think we are getting better at it, but yeah, it's still a long way to go.
You got to be, what is it, selfish to be selfless?
Yeah. It's like selfish. They're selfish, but they're selfish, like for yourself, you know.
Got to have a good relationship with yourself, right? And you've got to look after yourself. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Especially as you get a little bit older and you get busier, you know, because you end up in this habit of just working all the time. You know, you have a spare 5 minutes and you feel bad for it.
Yeah,
I should be doing something.
Yeah, exactly that.
And you know, put your feet up, chill, rest, recover, charge the batteries. Like, what would you do? Your phone, you charge that up regularly because it works hard.
Yeah,
you've got to do the same with yourself.
It's a lot of you got to be conscious about the self-talk as well, that you're having, the conversations you're having in your head.
Quality of thoughts.
Quality of thoughts.
That's a real key thing, and you have to have. This is the only thing that you have full control over. This is where you have to, quality of thoughts is key, you know. You have to be able to, it's all right to, even in your head, sometimes you say something good about yourself and you go, oh, that's a bit, you know, that's a bit arrogant. It's all right, you know, you can say something good about yourself. You can say you're doing well. You can give yourself positive affirmations, and that's fine.
Well, even like for race car drivers, if you haven't got that mindset of, I'm good enough, or I deserve this, then you know, you might not win a race, or you got to, you know, with having the right mindset, it can either take you all the way to first place, or you can end up
confident.
You have to be confident as a racing driver as well, because if you go into a corner, a braking zone, a fight, and you're hesitant, you're in big trouble. You have to go into every situation, every corner, every battle, every braking zone on the edge, confident, because if you're not, that's where the trouble comes. You know, you've got to be.
You're the man, isn't it? Basically,
and if you're behind someone, that guy in front's got to know that you're coming.
Yeah,
you're coming for them. And if you're in front of someone, they're going to know that you're not moving. You can't have any weakness, because they'll come after.
It's like a kink in the kink in the armour.
Yeah, you can't have them. You know, you have to be fully focused and prepared to go to that edge. Because if you don't, there's plenty of others that will, and you're going to find yourself just slipping further and further back. So yeah, positivity, confidence is huge, for sure.
And you know, based on that video that we saw of Billy, you know, the reflexes that you've got to have for when you're doing a race car driving, it must be absolutely insane. I mean, how do you resonate with it with your clients? Because obviously you're not a race car driver, so how do you kind of connect the bridge there?
I mean, I've never raced. I've done go-karting with them, and they kick my ass. But I've never raced a car. But I've played a good level of cricket, and again, reflexes and reactions are a key part of that. So I understand the way that you need to focus, the way that you need to block everything out and focus on the one thing in front of you. So there is a connection there. But also, when we're doing reaction training, so we have something called a BATAC wall, which is lights that come on and you have to...
Cool.
So I go on that with them, and I compete with them. So I try and do the same training. One of the things I always try and do is I always try and train as much as I can with them, and like to try and get as good a sense as I can of what it feels like and how these things are, and just how quick you have to be to compete with them in terms of reactions.
Yeah.
And it's quick. I promise you, their reactions are phenomenal, and they have to be. I mean, as you saw with Bill, there's nothing you could have done about it, but that's how quick things happen. You know,
literally
split
literally split seconds.
Yeah, that focus you have to have all the time is incredible, and that's where the fitness comes in. Is if you start getting tired and you haven't hydrated properly, you haven't eaten properly, you haven't slept properly, you can see the outcome of what can happen.
It shows in results.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors into it. You know, to perform at a high level, you have to get an awful lot right, and you get one little thing wrong, and
it could be detrimental.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So nice. It's very, very interesting to be. You know, Billy's such a big inspiration in itself, and he's a young man. He's got such a big opportunity ahead of himself.
Yeah.
So where do you kind of see yourself? 20, like 10? I don't even know how old you are, Andy, but 20, 30?
42.
Oh,
42.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good, mate. Not a day over 30, mate.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'll come
Glowing.
on again. Thanks, man. I've got loads I want to do. I think, I definitely want to do more stuff. Like the thing I did with Bill with Comic Relief was, for me, was so rewarding and that's a new area I want to explore some more. As I say, slowly reduce the amount I'm into the motorsport because of the travel. But also I really want to try and start doing more for the community around, trying to help the other guys and let them know that it's all right to feel a bit down, and there are other people around, and there are ways out of it, and there are places to come and talk and be a part of something. And that's definitely something I want to push moving forward, and something I'll explore a lot more. Definitely.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. So what would be your main message to the world if you had one?
My main, have a good relationship with yourself.
Okay.
Understand that you're doing your best. Mm-hmm. That it's okay to talk to people. It's okay to go through down patches, but you're all right. Everything's going to be okay.
That's powerful, man.
And whatever you're thinking of, that's going to be okay too. Just back yourself. Just back yourself. And quality of thoughts, I think, is a really good saying. Just whatever goes on in your head, make sure it's quality.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, because your mind can be a horrible place sometimes, isn't it?
You can, and you have control over it. It's up to you.
Yeah, it's true.
That's your space.
Yeah.
Let it be kind. Let it be good to you. And then if you are, you'll do good things for other people, and around it goes.
And if you're struggling, worst case scenario, get in touch with someone like yourself.
Get in touch with anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Yeah, talk about it.
Just open up, talk. It's all right. This whole being a man, this whole Neanderthal thinking of, I can't say anything, it shows weakness now. It's way stronger to talk to someone and sort it out than just let yourself shrink. So yeah, just get in touch.
It's true.
Definitely talk to someone.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from though, where people don't want to talk about? It's just like pride,
yeah.
isn't it?
Pride.
And yeah, I mean, it's been going on for years, a lot longer than we've even been around on the planet, to be fair, where it was just distilled in men that this is exactly how you're meant to be, but do you know what, where we're at in 2023, it's not even limited to just men anyway. It's just everybody is going on their own journey and their own adversity and their own path. And, I think having a level of compassion towards not only other people but yourself is really important.
I made the mistake of not talking soon enough and being that man who went, no, I'm not saying anything, and letting pride take over, and it was a mistake. And I think, if the more people that come on things like this and say that is the wrong thing to do, go and talk to someone, the better, because it is lonely and it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people struggling, I think, with COVID, like we said, it's a huge anomaly that no one's ever experienced, and it threw a lot of people out their comfort zones. It broke a lot of people's routines, and financially or whatever, it's been detrimental to people. So I think that shift in numbers has definitely gone through the roof. So yeah, let's try and start something and get people talking about
Change the narrative, isn't it? Of
why not?
Mental health and talking and opening up. It's important, man. Very
important. Get down the gym.
Get down the gym.
Train. Do something positive, because it does make you feel better. It's better than therapy. It's better than pills.
It's true, mate. Just go for a run, isn't it?
And anyone who's struggling, who listens to this, please, if they're not sure what to do, just contact someone.
Yeah.
Contact me. Contact your local trainer, your local gym. They'll help.
Contact us as well.
Yeah, why not?
There are people out there that will help you. So do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Andy, absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me, guys. I've loved it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great story, legend. And I look forward to seeing what happens with you next.
Yeah, same to you.
Cheers, pal.
Andy.
Cheers.
All the best.
Cheers, buddy.